Hi, welcome to another video on my pneumatic hand robotic arm with compressor and pivot with motor and bipolar switch. Last time I constructed this way of the wrist motor, and I found that I have a problem with the speed that it pivots the wrist. One difference with this lower pivot for the arm or for the base of the arm is that it is a different motor. Well, of course it is different because they look different, but apart from that, this is a different ratio of 125:1, while this is a ratio of, if I look correctly, 50:1. And that makes the pivot turn quite fast. I can show you. In the program I run it for 1 second one way and 1 second the other way, so this is how it looks, and you can also see that it doesn't run the same way in both ways. So actually it runs not as well as you think, but let me show you again, with apologies for the camera stand, and I'll change it back to what it was. Yes, and do it again. As you can see, it doesn't come back completely the way it was, and the danger of it is the twisting of the cables inside. They have a limited twisting. If it is twisted too far, who knows what happens. I don't like the thought of it. So I can do it once, I can do it twice maybe, and then let me further correct it. What I did last time was also making this construction to make sure that the motor isn't pushed away from its mounting point. Anyway, it definitely needs improvement. And not only that, if you look closely, there is a problem with the rest, because currently it definitely starts with this and only does this, while it has, as you can see, fingers that can be pressed. It has a base pivot that needs to run. It has a vertical gear that needs to run, and once again it has a compressor that can run. And yet, right now, by way of programming, it only does this motor. So I badly need to change the program. And to accommodate that, I think I'll have to split the program into 4 different parts. And apart from that, in order to get this correct, I also need a bipolar switch like this one, and the switches that I've used so far are these, and they press, but they don't keep memory like this one does. Well, it's not really memory, it's just a reversal of current and voltage, but it's not the way this one works. So I want to change the program. So, as you could see in the previous video and previous segment, this wrist part is not really what I like. It has a sleeping time of 1 second in both directions, but the experience that I got with this is actually exactly the same as the pivot with the arm base. 1 second in one way turns out to be not 1 second in the other way. I still have no clue why that is. 1 second is 1 second. Could be with weight, and yes, the weight on the side of the 4 fingers is of course different than the weight with just 1 finger or the thumb. However, as I pointed out, all this is not even coming into action. Now, this is another thing, because the pivot is actually no longer controlled by software. So while it was digital 10, the other things have to come into mind as well. So I need to do some add some statuses. And the problem is, of course, that if you are testing it or showing it at a model show, you want everything to work nicely. So I think I should say, okay, this is clearly, this is a status, wrist direction. So I can also add fingers active is 0, and I can also do elbow active, or active is 0, and those are then statuses. And then I could say here fingers active becomes 1. The problem is, when does it become 1? Well, right now here, but in order to get this done, I should say if fingers active is 1, then do, and that means that with all this I have to put all this between brackets, or since this is Python, not between brackets, but let me point out, this is everything to do let's say here, and then say okay, indent. It's further indented now, and let's say if the indentation is the same, 1, 2, 3, 4, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 100, 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 110, 111, 112, 113, 114, 115, 116, 117, 1 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. So now the fingers only work when fingers active is 1. So at the end of this, I have to say fingers active becomes 0 again. Oops. Now the problem is then I have a compressor, I have the vertical stuff, so when do I do what? And I'll have to decide on that. Because I want to do everything and not just one, and that is a problem. So with this and the desire to use the other parts as well, I have to say here, if and this is about the vertical arm pivot, no, the vertical arm gearbox, and that is elbow active. So if elbow active is 1, and that of course indicates or implies actually that I have to use all this, and then it becomes clear that I made a mistake earlier, because this is purely the arm pivot, and earlier I said that this was the this is the arm base pivot, but it clearly is not. So let's see if I can do that quite easily. Format, indent, and here we have an elbow is 1. So here I should put, that should of course be elbow, and then here I say elbow 1 active is 1. The only problem with this idea is, where does fingers active become 1? Here it becomes 0, here this becomes 1, then this is 1, and it goes on. And then I could say in the same manner, no, this is not true. Then here elbow active becomes 0, and wrist direction becomes 1. And then of course the same thing if wrist direction. However, here is a problem, because this can only be done when the elbow is active, and how long is this going to take? I have no idea. And that really is a problem with so many switches. 2 for the elbow, because this is a switch and this is a switch. Then going up, 5 switches for 5 fingers. And then no switch yet here, but for this alone I have for the upper, for the hand and for the elbow alone I have 7 switches. They have to be red. And you've noticed in the past that for instance, if I press one finger, it takes a while before the compressor is activated. So I don't think using statuses is the correct way to do it. So I'm going to remove the statuses again, and then I'll have to keep in mind to dedent it. And then getting this away. And dedent this as well. So now it is back to what it was. The only thing is, I have to test it though. I have to completely test this. Will it work or won't it? Let's check it. So, without all the statuses, there is still one problem, because as you can see, the statuses, the ifs are all depending on switches, and this one is not. Yet, if I activate the software right now, as you've seen earlier in this video, nothing works except the wrist motor, and that's not a good point. So let me first put this away. Now empty lines don't do much, but when not when, but how can I prevent only this from working and the rest not? I guess I have to use a switch for that, and that brings a very big problem, like I indicated also at the start of this video. I don't have another bipolar switch yet, and using a 3-setting switch like I used before, I used to do two switches with 3 settings, 1 off and 0, before I had the bipolar switch. That doesn't work. Now the small black switches also have 3 contact points, but that's a digital one. But it misses a 4th point. So how do I use this? It goes without saying that I do need a bipolar switch, but it is also a rather large switch. And if you see, if you look back at the problems I had mounting this motor on the pivot on the wrist, then that is a very good question how to mount it. Also, I've measured the distance between say the motor through the arm to the extension of the interface, that's 80 centimeters. With 1 inch being 2.5 centimeter approximately, it's actually 2.54. Then you do the math how long the cable should be, because also when reasoning I can't use this small black switch in the same way as I use the pivot switch. It's impossible. So how to proceed from here? How to get how to prevent the program from executing only this and not everything else? That's a very good question, and without switch I can't figure out how. And that's a big oops right now. I don't have a pivot switch, yeah, a bipolar pivot switch, and I don't have the cable length. Really need to think about it. So I have, after quite a bit of thought, decided to improvise a switch. I don't have the necessary cable length, but with 2 short wires I can do something manually. The idea is then that this really does become the switch that responds to the wrist. So what I will do is enable this. As a consequence, this has to be indented. But does it work? Well, there's only one way to be absolutely sure that it works the way I want it, and that is using the diagnosis interface. So I enable it, but I have to use slave, and as you can see now it is responding as switch 11. This is 11. I have to see if this is correct. Input 8, 9, 10, 11. So that is correct. However, I am not touching it. So I want it to be active upon touching. So I am removing now one of the wires and put it in here. So now it is inactive. I press it and then I expect it to be active, which does not happen. So let me put the wires in a different configuration then. And this is surprising. It doesn't work at all now. That is not what I expect to happen. So, now I see. It is right. Now it works, and I have to be careful now that I get what I want. And I still don't get what I want. See, and that is what testing is for. So once again, trying a different configuration. two wires in three possible positions, and yet it doesn't work, and that is can I consider as a big oops. Why doesn't this work? Now I want it exactly the opposite way. Now I'm pressing it and now I release it, and I want this to be upon pressing this situation. So quite odd. It should be even a no-brainer, but apparently hardware thinks otherwise. So it's in a slightly different configuration, and once again it's not the way I want. Why doesn't it cooperate? This is very annoying. Alright, back to the other configuration again. Why doesn't this work? Pressing or releasing it shows nothing. And this shows something, but the opposite way. Alright. Apparently today nothing is as should be. Okay, back to the hardware. This is the improvised switch. Well, the switch is an improvised cable actually. And it is here in input 11, 9, 10, 11, counting from the interface itself. So, as you have seen in the diagnostics, this is positive, while this should be negative. And that is the whole problem, because you want it to be negative in this way that it doesn't touch. So in order to have this working, I should put in the code if digital is 0, then do something. It's all in the code, of course. You can do whatever you like, but it's not logical. So with this I return attention to the motor, and I start the software, and then I'll have to change the software to if digital 11 to if not digital 11. Then I don't have to press the switch each time again. So let's do that first. Then start the software. So what is whining? Not quite sure what is whining now. It is a motor, no doubt. Let me press one of the fingers. I take, let me show you. I just take this finger. How long does it take before it responds? The response should be the activation of the compressor. and I see on screen that this finger is actually being signaled. Alright, let me take another finger, finger 2 in this case. Am I impatient? Should I wait longer? I don't like that. Alright, so the finger doesn't respond. Well, it is being sensed. This improvised wire, now it goes. And that is the compressor that is working now suddenly. So, why is this whining? The vertical gearbox is not working yet. I press the finger and I press it again. Ouch! Look at this. It's come loose. This is not good in any way. And I see what has happened. It is running and I press the switch and it goes the opposite way. This is a big ouch. And I'm pressing the switch and I press it again. Okay, and this is what testing is about. See where things go wrong. Ouch, big oops. I need to fix. Okay, I fixed the hand. And I also realized that I made a software error, and I will correct that next time, because right now I have an if digital, or rather if not digital, together with the timing, and I should have either one or the other. Or should I? That's a very good question. So, changes right now are, let me fix the hand again. I have changed the software a little bit and back. I have made an improvised wrist pivot switch. It doesn't do its job, but I have to do it manually. Then this is maybe not the best construction. Considering the speed with which this runs, it may not be the ideal construction. Then I figured that from last time, also important, the motor was not engaged into the pivot gear, so it runs but it doesn't work. And still to be done is this wiring, which I don't like, at least not in this way, with complete perpendicular ending into the elbow. For now, thank you for watching. If you like this video and have not subscribed yet, please do so. See also my Instagram. if you like my videos and blog and think I can support, please see my website, how you can support my blog, and this is definitely going to be continued. So bye bye.